We'll be starting soon. I've just been told that the High Commissioner is doing an interview and will be here in a few minutes, and then we'll begin. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. We'll start off with a video, a Tourism Australia video. Australia is open to all those looking at visiting, be it friends, family, business.
G'day. Australia is open, and it's yours to explore. There are cities to discover, stars to sit under, and there's fuzzy, furry, flappy, funny mates to meet. So it's time to dive in and put on a seat, because stories like these just have to be shared. And all of this, and this. Yep, this is where you can find a story of your own. So book a flight and pack your bags, because Australia is yours to explore. Come and say g'day.
Good evening to all of you present here and those viewing this live on YouTube. I'm Petula Thomas, the CEO of the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce for our members in both India and Australia. And on behalf of the outgoing president of the Chamber, Sanjeev Bajaj, and the president-elect Deepak Pataki, who is here with us today, Deepak from Infosys, our board, executive council, I'd like to welcome you to the Northern India chapter launch in New Delhi. I'd like to especially welcome His Excellency, the Honourable Barry O'Farrell, Australian High Commissioner to India, Ms. Sarah Story, Australian Deputy High Commissioner to India, Dr. Ajay Garg, Director, SPD and Innovation and Startup, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. I'd also like to acknowledge Ambassador Anil Vadva, Chairperson of the Northern India Chapter, Mr. Rituraj Sinha, Vice Chair, committee members of the Northern India Chapter, Ravin Mirchandani, Chairperson of the Western India Chapter, Gavin Stanton, who's been nominated Chairperson for our Bengaluru Chapter, Hugh Boylan, Economic Councillor, Tim White, Trade and Investment Commissioner, and others who are present here today. I must mention our platinum sponsors, Telstra, Tata BlueScope Steel Private Limited, CAS Group Asia, SIS Group Enterprises. Silver sponsors are JK Cement Limited, Sheila Group, and Haldiram Snacks Limited. Thank you for your support. A little introduction to the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce for those who don't know us yet. It was established in 1989 on a vision of two former Prime Ministers, Mr. Bob Hawke, Prime Minister of Australia, and Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, Prime Minister of India. We're the only bilateral Chamber of Commerce in India that promotes trade and investment between the two countries. So we're headquartered in Chennai, and we have successful chapters in Western India, Bengaluru, and East India, and now, of course, in the north. The ICC's Northern India chapter will play a key role in driving the overall mission and objectives of the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce in the North region. It will serve as the local guiding point for business, growth, and advocacy, participating in strategic initiatives that enhance trade and business partnerships between India and Australia. The historic Indus ECTA promises to unlock a wide range of bilateral trade and investment opportunities, offering our members commercial benefits like easier market access, lower tariffs, and other concessions. So the timing of us expanding to Northern India couldn't be any better. We're honored to have His Excellency the Honourable Barry O'Farrell as patron of the Chamber. With over 30 business leaders from both countries and our leadership team across India, we look forward to providing practical support to the Indian and Australian government's roadmap for taking bilateral trade from the existing USD 27 billion to 45 to 50 billion US dollars in the next 5 years. We'll now have a 2-minute video that gives you a perspective on our strategic initiatives and how we play the role of a conduit between government, industry, and academia, a bit of our journey this far. And for that, I must thank the High Commissioner, all the Australian diplomatic missions across India, and of course, our members, all of you who are present here with us, for helping us come this far on this journey. We'll now have the lighting of the lamp, and for that, can I request the following to join me here, please? High Commissioner, Deepak Padaki, Dr. Ajay Garg, Ambassador Barbara, Mr. Rituraj Singh. And if you could please remain on stage, we'll now have the national anthems.
अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा कावेरी उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उत्कल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Thank you very much. We can proceed. The Australian High Commissioner needs no introduction. However, I will invite Ravin Mirchandani, Chairperson of the Western India Chapter, and Chairman Adore and Accusenses, to introduce the High Commissioner as we move on to the next part of the program.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And it's really nice to see everybody here for a momentous occasion for the Chamber for AustCham India, which is the inauguration of our North Indian chapter, the final domino, in fact, in the expansion across India to be a real chamber. I have the most redundant job of the evening. I'm here to introduce the most famous person and the most likable person in the room that everybody knows. But that is my job, so I shall do it. Welcome to the Honourable Barry O'Farrell, AO, Australian High Commissioner to India. Barry is likely the most high-profile appointee to the job in India, and likely the one that has had the most energy in many years in focusing the attention of both governments in building a long-term, sustainable, resilient relationship that will last well beyond our generation. Barry served in the Parliament of New South Wales, of which Sydney is the capital, from 1995 to 2015, including as the state's 43rd Premier, the Indian equivalent of Chief Minister, between 2011 and 2014. As Premier, Barry initiated and led annual trade missions to India to promote economic, cultural, and social links between New South Wales and the states of India. He's also served as the New South Wales Special Envoy to India and has made a significant contribution as Deputy Chair of the Australia-India Council Board. Barry has a Bachelor of Arts from the ANU in Canberra. Born in Melbourne, he actually grew up a Territorian based in Darwin. He's married to Rosemary and has 2 adult sons. AustCham India is very grateful to the support of Barry, because of which we have grown significantly. His high energy right from the days of having arrived in India straight into the lockdown. We saw Barry repeatedly on the television, having to do Zoom and other WebEx webinars, launch chamber events in India. But it is because of his unique focus, his unique energy, his unique passion for the relationship of the two governments to be one that is resilient long-term allies and partners for the long-term future of both our economies and our defense. That we as a chamber are very grateful for everything that you've done for us, and in fact for your posting here as High Commissioner to India. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome our High Commissioner, Barry O'Farrell.
Thank you, Ravin, for that. And I have to say that I have many things to thank Ravin for, not just his leadership of the Western chapter, but since coming to India in February of 2020, I've only driven once, and that's in a restored car that he had at his business. That's an EV car. So I had fun. I didn't run over anybody. So I've still got some skills left. I knew from my earlier visits to India that there was no way that I would cope driving on Indian roads, and I sometimes still close my eyes during roundabouts in Delhi. Look, namaskar in particular to Ambassador Anil Vadva, to President-elect Deepak Badaki, to distinguished guests and all of my colleagues. But in particular, can I say, given that this is a trade investment related event, I want to acknowledge Sarah Story, my deputy, of course. I want to acknowledge Tim White, who is the Trade and Investment Commissioner representing Austrade here this evening, and of course, Hugh Boylan, who is the Economic Counsellor at DFAT. These 3 people mean that I just have to try and look good, which I know is very hard with this face, and just turn up because they do all the hard yards when it comes to it. But I have no doubt that, in particular without Tim, we wouldn't have got halfway through this trade deal that we hope to finish by, Tim and Hugh, that we wouldn't have got halfway through this trade deal that we're hoping to finish by the end of this year. I'm honoured to be at this inaugural meeting of the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce Northern Chapter. It, as Ravin said, completes the picture across India, and that's important. I'm particularly pleased to also take on the role of patron, something that the amazing Petula has been chasing me to do for some time. And as the final brick goes into place, here I am. I want to congratulate you on the successful launch of this chamber, and I particularly want to acknowledge the efforts of all of the chambers and chapters. I keep saying chamber chapters, which is almost a tongue tie, for what you're doing across the country for the trade investment relationship between Australia and India. And I particularly want to thank Petula. I know Petula is the CEO. I know that leaders are important. I was one once, but I know that at the end of the day, it's the leader, it's the CEO who follows through on those ideas that leaders have, which is why I'm always grateful to Sarah. Most of you would have to be on another planet if you didn't know that last Saturday in my country there was a national election. That national election delivered change, as it does in democracies. It's one of the things that democracies do so much better than non-democracies, which is we can change governments without bloodshed, without revolution, without any shots being fired. But my message for you tonight is pretty clear and it's pretty simple, that despite the change of government in Australia, nothing has changed with the relationship. As my Prime Minister made clear in a series of tweets today, the India relationship continues to be at a high, and we've heard from him already since his election and before the election that he wants, like Dr. Jaishankar, even greater ambition for the relationship. And the ambitions that the new government has for India includes, the fact that nothing will change includes the fact that our ongoing efforts, particularly by my staff and by posts across India, to further deepen the relationship, that will continue as well, because we understand that's for the mutual prosperity of both of our countries. Our countries' close bonds are cemented by shared strategic drivers, democratic values, a mutual regional vision, and of course the incredible people-to-people link that don't just cover cultural and business, but also for Australia, the incredible diaspora. And that vibrant and growing diaspora is a core feature of Australia's proud and multicultural society. And I note that on the weekend, further members of that diaspora have been elected to Parliament. And if you want a sign that a community is part of a country, the best sign is to see when they too are able to make use of the democratic processes and have themselves elected. As robust and resilient democracies and as like-minded partners, India and Australia also share a bright future. Earlier this month, the Australian Labor Party's trade spokesperson, Madeleine King, outlined the contours of their trade and investment policy, in which India, not surprisingly, featured prominently. All the assembled here know that in the wake of COVID-19, in the wake of shifting geostrategic dynamics, trade diversification has become increasingly important for all countries. And Australia wants India to play a key role in diversifying our trading relationships, both to provide new opportunities to Australian exporters and consumers, but importantly, to ensure that we have secure, resilient supply chains and trusted partners. India and Australia, as you know, in the middle of year one of this pandemic, became comprehensive strategic partners. It's both natural and logical that we should look to one another to grow our economies, something that's not only key to our mutual prosperity, but is also key to our desire to deliver better security for the Indo-Pacific region. And both nations have taken bold steps to look to grow our economies. In April, Australia and India signed the ECTA, the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, which Prime Minister Modi insists on telling people is Hindi for unity. I'll leave that judgment to you, but I can't overstate just how significant a development this is for the relationship. India's first trade deal with a large developed country in 10 years has been with Australia. And there's a raft of other countries bigger than Australia, older than Australia, more powerful than Australia in the queue behind us. Like the former government of Australia, the Australian Labor Party wants a comprehensive trade agreement with India. As Madeleine King noted last week, Labor will build on what its predecessors have done, not tear it down. We look forward to the resumption of negotiations on the Closer Economic Cooperation Agreement, which are due to start in June of this year. ECTA gives us both an opportunity to harness the complementary nature of our economies in areas such as critical minerals, professional services, education and tourism. Indian consumers and businesses will benefit, as Petula said, by the elimination of tariffs on 85% of Australian goods exports to this country, while Australian consumers will benefit from almost 96% of your goods coming to Australia being duty-free. ECTA, by any measure, is a transformational deal that will create jobs and opportunities in both countries. Your amazing Commerce Minister, who did a lightning visit to Australia and exhausted everybody by what he was doing, commented recently that there are benefits to India across the goods and services sectors from this deal. For example, ECTA will boost India's export of textiles, something which the Indian government says will deliver an extra 40,000 jobs created each year in this country. That's got to be good news. And on services, the reflecting importance of education in our bilateral relationship, Australia has for the first time confirmed post-study work rights and will extend access for highly sought after science, technology, engineering and mathematics graduates. ECTA, of course, as I've mentioned already briefly, is incredibly strategically important for us both. Australia is in a prime position to assist India to achieve its clean energy goals through the supply of lithium and other critical minerals. ECTA will provide certainty in the supply of high quality, competitively priced critical minerals to India, which are essential to the production of high-end technologies, including for electric cars and, of course, solar panels. This can only support India's ambition to take a major role in advanced manufacturing, something that all countries in the world are keen to happen for obvious reasons. Having diverse, competitive and resilient clean energy supply chains underpinned by stable markets will be critical in meeting future demand for clean energy and for the region's economic growth and prosperity. But ECTA is not the only step Australia has taken to grow our two-way trade and investment relationship. Some of you will be aware that we recently updated our India economic strategy. That update is a call to action for both government and business in both our countries. It includes a 5-year plan for Australia to help achieve its long-term economic ambitions with India. To implement the plan, Australia is investing 1,500 crore rupee in new programs and initiatives to help bolster the bilateral relationship. Now, the original India economic strategy highlighted that no country would offer more growth opportunities to Australia than India in coming decades. And while that claim hasn't changed, what has changed, of course, is the world in which we live, and it's changed considerably thanks to COVID and thanks to those geostrategic forces I mentioned earlier. This update and an accompanying investment package respond to these changes. They recognise evolving challenges and opportunities for both of our countries. And it builds on the insights of the CII's Australia Economic Strategy put together by a great friend of the relationship and a former ambassador and a good man, full stop, Ambassador Neil Vadva, who's with us here tonight. The new initiatives that the government is investing in within the update cover the breadth of our relationship and our shared priorities, including agriculture, infrastructure, education and skills, public administration and governance, resources and energy, science and innovation, defence, cyber and critical technology. These investments and the signing of ECTA mark considerable progress, but there remain an ocean of opportunities out there to further the relationship between our countries and to provide a more fruitful ground for businesses. And I'm reminded by Hugh Boylan, the Economic Councillor, of the old expression that you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Governments can only do so much to pave the way for greater B2B or business engagement. Business must take the wheel and find and develop the new opportunities. Governments can open doors, governments can put in place secure supply chains, can do all those sorts of other things, but government can't do business. Probably shouldn't say that in any democracy, but it's true. This chamber's growing footprint across India and Australia is an excellent marker and a vehicle to help realise the growth that we seek in this relationship. We look forward, and I look forward as patron, to seeing what you will achieve through this network. My colleagues at the Australian High Commission and at Austrade stand ready to assist the Chamber and its membership in supporting businesses to identify those opportunities. India and Australia have shared values. We have shared circumstances and we have shared aspirations, and they will strengthen the partnership for years to come. The success of the Australia-India relationship sets the backdrop for greater cooperation across the Indo-Pacific to support a region where every country should have the right to prosper, whether they're big or whether they're small. Australia knows that in India we have a trusted natural partner and also a natural partner in the Indo-Pacific. Our diplomatic and trade network across the country will continue to work to ensure that India understands that in Australia, you too have a natural partner. I look forward to working with all of you to continue to realise the great potential of the Australia-India relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner, for that inspiring keynote, inspiring many, many ways to all of us present here, as always. Can I request Deepak Pataki, the President-elect, to join me on stage, and our chapter chairpersons, Ambassador Wadhwa, Ravin Mirchandani, and if we could have Gavin as well. Gavin, great.
All the presidents, all the chairs.
Yes, and we have everyone here, so I think have you in the centre? And
You can announce. So if I'm in the centre, more people go on my right.
Right. Thank you very much for coming on.
Take it, let me try, after 20 years in politics, to take a photo, you point it that way. Everybody smiles, looks at the cameras, and then never stop taking photos.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Now, what does it say?
Says that.
That's great.
We're pleased to honor
Thank you.
this.
An auspicious state, fantastic.
Yes, thank you. Thanks again, the High Commissioner, and we're absolutely honoured, delighted to have the High Commissioner as patron of the Chamber. And thank you very much for that, the support that we have and that you said we will continue to have from the Australian government in India. We'll now move on to the next. We'll now move on to the panel discussion, and if we could just have that set up here. The panel discussion is on celebrating the India-Australia economic partnership, success stories, and the road ahead. I think we thought with speakers from Telstra, Tata BlueScope Steel, and CAS Group Asia here today, it was only befitting that we look to have such a topic. Thanks. While we are setting that up, we will have the launch of the chapter. And for that, I would like to invite Deepak Pataki, the President-elect, and EVP Strategy and Chief Risk Officer, Infosys, to announce the launch, introduce the committee members and special invitees to the chapter. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you, Petula. And once again, High Commissioner, thank you so much for coming on as patron. I think we've had immense support from the High Commission and all the Consul Generals in all the regions. And it really is a proud day for us at the Chamber. We had a successful launch of the Western India chapter in May 2019, and then the Bengaluru chapter in September 2019, the East India chapter in March 2022, and today we are so happy and proud to launch the North India chapter. And I'd like to invite the committee members to come on stage as I call out their names. We're, of course, extremely fortunate to have Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, former Ambassador and Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, the Government of India, and the author of the Australia Economic Strategy Report. Ambassador Wadhwa has kindly accepted to be the chairperson of the North India chapter. So thank you, Ambassador Wadhwa. As a vice chairperson of this chapter, we have Mr. Rituraj Sinha, Managing Director of SIS Group Enterprises. Thank you, Rituraj. Ms. Isha Rathi, Associate Principal for Populous, is a member of the Executive Committee here. And Mr. Madhav Singhania, Australia-India Youth Dialogue, and Deputy Managing Director and CEO of JK Cement Limited. As we have done in all of the other chapters, we also have invitees to the chapter, and I'm very pleased to announce their names. Ms. Sarah Story, Australian Deputy High Commissioner to India, Hugh Boylan, Economic and Public Affairs Councillor, Mr. Vikram Gera and Mr. Rahul Agarwal, Directors of the Australia, New Zealand and India Business Association, Mr. Arjit Banerjee, Australia Alumni Association, Mr. Jasmeet Singh Khalsi, Director of Manikaran Power Limited, Mr. Rohit Kochar, Chairman and Managing Partner of Kochar and Company, Mr. Rajinder Lal, the General Manager for Business Development at Leighton India Contractors, and Mr. Tim White, I'm taking the liberty of announcing your name as well, Trade and Investment Commissioner and Council Commercial for Austrade. I think this set of people will add immense value to this North India chapter as we launch it today. We are really looking at this chapter not just from the perspective of engaging with businesses and specific sectors in this region of the country, but also to further, enhance the relationship that we've had both with the High Commission as well as on the Indian government side. So, Petula, should we have a photograph now with everyone here? Yep. So may I request all the people that I called out to please come over. We'll have to squeeze in here for a photograph. Yeah.
It's also like a talk about. Let's talk, Sarah.
You might have to do sideways. I think we do that in all the chapters.
You can see the camera, I can see.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, High Commissioner. Well, I'd like to welcome Ambassador Wadhwa to moderate the session. Ambassador Wadhwa was a member of the Indian Foreign Service, IFS, from 1979 till 2017, and has acquired diverse experience in diplomacy, management, international economics, and negotiations over his career spanning 37 years. He has also led the preparing of the Australia Economic Strategy Report commissioned by the Ministry of Commerce. And of course, that is CII's report. So we're very pleased to have you here. And with that, I'd like to welcome you to moderate the session, introduce the panelists as well. Over to you.
You want this?
Thank you very much, Petula. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, High Commissioner Barry O'Farrell, all the other dignitaries present at this very important launch of IACC's Northern India chapter. So the topic for our discussion is celebrating India-Australia economic partnership, success stories, and the road ahead. So I'd like to introduce our very distinguished panelists now. First, Mr. Gavin Stanton. He's the executive partner of Ecosystem of Telstra. Gavin is a proven business leader with a professional experience spanning over 26 years. Has run large global operations and developed enterprise-wide business strategies. His experience ranges across operations, sales, analytics, supply chain, and sourcing, and a significant portion in the IT and ITES space. He has delivered exceedingly high customer and shareholder value across and has proven experience in managing multiple shared services operations, especially in Asia Pacific and the United States. And currently, Gavin is an executive with Telstra India and leads Telstra GBS's partner ecosystem. And in this role, Gavin oversees development of partner delivery from Telstra's Innovation and Capability Center in India, helping Telstra's business transformation to a digital, agile, and innovative technology-led solutions company for its customers. Let me invite Gavin. Please join us here. Our next panelist is Mr. Anup Kumar Trivedi, Managing Director of Tata BlueScope Steel. Mr. Anup Kumar Trivedi has been appointed as the Managing Director of Tata BlueScope Steel, effective from 1st of January 2022. And prior to this appointment, he was the Executive Plant Head, Tata Steel Limited in Sahibabad since May 2018, where he was instrumental in ensuring a smooth transition through one team initiative post the Bhushan Steel Limited takeover by Tata Steel Limited. Mr. Trivedi has a diversified experience spanning over 25 years within the steel industry, including manufacturing, erection, commissioning of mills, working closely with technology teams for developing innovative products and solutions for steel consumers across the globe. Let me invite Anup here on the stage. The next panelist is Mr. Mridul Dasgupta, General Manager, Sourcing and Quality, KAS Group, India. Mr. Dasgupta is General Manager, Target Australia Sourcing, TAS, and manages sourcing and quality across all categories of soft and hard goods. Mridul has over 26 years of varied experience working with reputed manufacturing and sourcing organizations. Prior to joining TAS, Mridul was leading Macy's India operations as General Manager. Before joining the buying side of the business, Mridul has worked in buying agencies like Triberg and manufacturing companies like Gokaldas Images in Bangalore and Busana Apparel Group in Jakarta, Indonesia. Mridul has hands-on experience in the areas of sourcing and quality management across clothing, footwear, and home product categories. Mridul, can I invite you to join us? Thank you very much. The way we will do this is we will put across a question to each one of you in turn, maybe two questions. And after that, we'll put it open the house so anybody can ask questions or make a comment if you wish. Remember, the topic is celebrating the India-Australia Economic Partnership, success stories, and the road ahead. So we want to basically listen to you, in fact, your experience in this journey. So let me start with Mr. Gavin Stanton. So Gavin, recently, India and Australia signed an economic cooperation and trade agreement in the sector, which High Commissioner referred to. Telstra is a large investor in India, and last year expanded operations to Pune and Hyderabad, apart from Bengaluru. How has Telstra's journey been in India, and what are the major areas of growth that you see? And what would be your advice to the Australian companies looking at international expansion and growing offshore? How can they position themselves as a partner of choice over other markets?
Thank you, Ambassador Wadhwa. Just for everyone's reference, Telstra is one of Australia's leading telecom and technology companies. We are a very serious and a deep buyer of services and support of India, out of India. But I'll start with this cliched comment. Telstra came here for cost, but stayed here for value. I think so that's a very important lens that any business that comes to India has to really embark on. For you to realize value, you need to stay invested for the long haul. You need to be ready to take risks. You need to be adaptable and flexible. But most importantly, you need to know how to treat India. India is not a location of choice in terms of cost or growth or in terms of scale. India is a strategic asset. And that asset really magnifies itself in the way you build that as part of your organization. Don't treat India as an extended team. Treat India as an organization where you need to nurture, develop, and churn out both products, services, as well as processes out of India. So to answer the question about the free trade agreement, it's a little too early for me to really comment, but I think so it's a testimony to the promise it holds. Today, when you really look at it, there are a lot of challenges in terms of how you want to really port data. How do you want to set up different job architectures within countries? I think so the free trade agreement really enhances transparency of accountability, enhances transparency in terms of the regulatory system that you want to really set up. And last but not the least, it really helps create a boundaryless behavior between two countries. So my advice to anyone who wants to really offshore into India is come here with a certain amount of risk appetite, stay invested for the long haul, but most importantly, come here for value, not for cost.
Thank you. Thank you. I now would like to turn to Mr. Trivedi. So Tata BlueScope Steel, which is a joint venture between Tata Steel and BlueScope Steel, Australia, is a powerful partnership of 15 plus years. And looking back, what are some of the key factors for the success of this partnership, and what strategies helped and will help this partnership to transform and to grow?
Thanks, Mr. Wadhwa. Good evening, all. So now on the lighter side, people say that marriages are made in heaven, but joint ventures are made in earth, and both can be miserable if there is no trust. So if I were to share 4 key points, I mean, I can go on and on in this subject because I have been closely looking at this subject now. First is that if there is a joint venture where one can create value for the customer, and both the partners are clear that what is the value which they are bringing in the joint venture, then this joint venture works. So in case of Tata BlueScope Steel, this was a marriage of two giants, Tata Steel and BlueScope Steel, and both had very strong brand equity in their respective locations and across the globe also now. We primarily take cold rolled steels from Tata Steel, so which is a backward integration for our plant, and then color coat it. So there was a huge business which was seen by both the joint ventures. And as I said, if the objective of the two joint venture, the purpose is clear. The purpose was that Tata Steel knew the market in the country, and BlueScope had that technology of building and constructions. So that is why once the purpose was clear, the marriage happened. After the marriage happened, if I were to share the success factors, one was the common value system, the work culture, for example, people development, safety, inclusive growth. These are common themes which run across any Australian company or an Indian company. So the value systems were common, the leadership styles were common. So that is why this was one of the success factor. Then, as I already said, there was huge trust between the two partners. In addition to that, the desired outcome should be known. If there's a lot of pull and push between the joint ventures, there is where the problem starts. So the vision was co-created, it was evolved as we proceeded, and both had that accommodating nature in the sense that if they were a failure, then it was a joint failure. If it was a success, it was a joint success. So because of these reasons, I think the joint venture, it's actually more than 17 years now, and we have been running successfully. Just to share that in next few months, we are going to double our turnover, what we started 17 years back. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. I now turn to Mr. Dasgupta. So KS Group Asia is the exclusive direct sourcing arm of Kmart Group that operates the iconic retail brands Kmart Australia, which is owned by Wesfarmers, and Target Australia and Catch. So this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and KGA is a respected player in most of the sourcing markets. In India, what have been some of KGA's successes, and what are the challenges that you currently face, and how do you see things going forward?
Thank you, Ambassador Wadhwa, for that question, and good evening, everyone. So it's an honor to have the opportunity to speak to such a distinguished audience. So just to give you a little sense of the journey that CAS Group Asia has had in India over the years, we started it as a really small sourcing organization way back in 2007. It took us almost 10 years to build a business, a sourcing business in India. We brought it up to about 80 million. But in the 6 years since 2017, 5 years actually, we now actually export products worth US dollars, $180 million into Australia. In 2017, we had an office strength of about 30 people in the sourcing office, and today we stand at about 88, and actually plans to grow much, much more in the years to come. Because you have to realize that we achieved this growth in an environment where we were still bound by duties, whereas we were competing with countries like Bangladesh, China, where there was no duty. So, of course, in the ecosystem that we operate in, this the trade deal that was announced a month ago has been received with immense joy. And we are actually very positive that we will be looking at significant growth in the areas that we operate in. The other thing that, again, as Ambassador was talking about, the two areas that we kind of see as opportunities for the relationship between India and Australia, one of it is textiles, which is, of course, the core area that we've operated in, and we plan to grow that. The other, we spoke about IT. And that's the other area that we have, as a group, have invested in India since, again, 2018. We have set up a GCC, a Global Capabilities Center in Bengaluru. And as of today, we already have 250 plus members supporting our business in Australia in varied fields like inventory management, advanced analytics, IT security, financial planning, and a myriad other possibilities open up as we progress into the future. So absolutely, I think the wins are far too many to count, and we are extremely fortunate. The other thing that we have to acknowledge that has happened over the past few years is a clear recognition of the Indian management skill set. So in the sourcing world, a large part of this global management of the business used to be based out of the Far East Asia. It used to be in Hong Kong primarily. But over the past few years, Indian management talent has been recognized as really capable. And as a result of which, on the sourcing side, a large part of the senior management team of CAS Group now sits in the India office. So we have a director of the entire operation, where we are actually sourcing about $2.4 billion worth of products globally. So the director of that entire operation sits in the Delhi office, as does Virender Sharma, who takes care of a large part of apparel sourcing for Kmart, for the Kmart part of the business, which is again worth about $800 million. And of course, I sit there as well. So we have a large senior management group across, who is now based out of India as opposed to other countries that was in the past. Some of the challenges, I think, are common across the industry. I think there are obviously challenges related to COVID, related to the volatility that we are seeing, related to supply chain challenges and over-dependence on certain geographies. But we are working very actively to try and resolve that. And I think there is a recognition that India can play a really strong role in mitigating some of that risk as we move forward in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we go into the next round. My next question is to Gavin again. The world is going through a unique challenge of supply constraints, whether talent or physical resources. And Telstra has been one of the front runners in tapping into the talent supply pool in India. Can you share your learnings for others who are considering leveraging engineering and operations skills from India? And what areas, in your view, need strengthening?
Sure. Thank you, Ambassador Wadhwa. Now, this issue of talent pool is just getting exacerbated by the day. Thanks to the backlog created by COVID, it's just imploded multiple times. But if I really look at the way we have tried to manage this, one is we need to first understand what needs to be automated, what needs to be, to a certain extent, broken up in terms of pieces. When I say pieces, between countries, between locations, and last but not the least, how do you really encourage higher productivity with folks working from home? So those are some of the three things that we went after. But in terms of the common pool of agents, a common pool of resources that we constantly keep tapping into, we need to have closer engagement with academia. Because today, it takes us anywhere between 12 months to 15 months to have someone industry ready and production ready. We need to crunch that time. So we will have to work very closely with academia. Number two, we need to make sure that EdTech really becomes much more inclusive and starts to train resources beyond metros. If not, all of us are going to be fishing from the same pool of talent. Last but not the least, we need to make sure that we start looking at end-to-end processes that are managed, not compartments, because that builds an inherent inefficiencies in the system. So what we've done of late, in mainly to address talent requirements, is also looked at acqui-hiring. There are a huge bunch of startups out here who have talent pools. We're looking at how we can co-brand ourselves. You know, one thing that any successful company coming to India has really cracked this code is you decide when you want to make, when you want to buy, and when you want to blend. Make is when you really want to start something greenfield for yourself. Buy is when you really go into a partnership model and you have great partners out here. I mean, you have Infosys, TCS, Wipros of the world who can really do things for you. They've been doing this for a living for a very long time. We need to really get that out of when you want to make, when you want to buy. And blend. Blend is, I think so we need to now look at gig work. And that's what really attracts the Gen Z, plethora of talent that's available. So it's a combination of sorts. So there isn't one silver bullet, Ambassador Wadhwa, but there's a plethora of things that we can do to really contain and maintain this constant challenge with talent.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Trivedi, again, a question following the signature of ECTA. Minister Goyal said that India is looking at tripling steel production capacity and energy efficiency. So what are your thoughts on how this interim agreement will give further impetus to the steel industry, which is growing quite fast in India? And where do the opportunities lie? And in this context, what are the synergy opportunities that you see on sustainability? And while we are on this question, recently there was this announcement of export duty on steel from India. How is that going to affect your operations and the steel industry in general?
So last one is a little touchy point for me, but then thanks. So I'll share my views on that. So see, in terms of this FTA, the way I see it, since I saw on 2nd of April this being signed, I see it as an extension of what Tata and BlueScope was anyway doing in the country. So there was a lot of synergy between Tata and BlueScope. And so as I said in my earlier thought, that Tata had that brand equity, BlueScope had that technology, and the two giants came together. And similar is the one which is going to happen now. India and Australia coming together, and there's going to be unlocking of huge potential at both ends, and the both economies would benefit. But from a good corporate citizen point of view, I'll say that the best, and this country being now becoming a manufacturing hub for the world, there are many and multiple shops which will get created, whether it is a Korean company or a Japanese company. And when we, and these companies would require steel to bring out products or bring out services from their factories or their offices. We as Tata BlueScope or Tata Steel would engage, and it's good for us because our steel consumption goes up and up because of these shops getting created. While doing this, as I was saying, as a good corporate citizen, the sustainability is the thing which we will have to keep this in mind. All the natural resources which we have got and what we want to give it to the next generation, where we will hand over the baton of this corporate, should be much stronger. They should be more confident, the next generation, to operate it for next hundreds of years. For that, we will have to do the seeding now. So a large part of it is already done, but with this agreement, the sustainability part, and sustainability as we understood till yesterday, at least uh, uh, I also didn't know so much, but then it's not about air, water, or it's not it's not about land. It's about inclusive growth. It's about diversity. Are we allowing the is it gender bias? Are we allowing everybody to participate in a corporate growth? So sustainability is the thing which is a huge learning which we can take from our Australian partners, which we are taking, and this will only grow leaps and bounds as we proceed. And this FTA will help. In fact, the clean steel concept which is coming up to reduce the carbon dioxide is going to help us more, because the matured economies are much ahead of us, and this is an opportunity to learn. So I see it as a huge opportunity. I'm looking forward to the gains which are going to come along with it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I presume you don't want to answer the last part of the question.
So now, in all fairness, I'll attempt. The steel prices in last 2 years, if we see, I mean, 2018, 19, somewhere, there was quite a variation. It was going up and down, and we as steel players also knew that it is going to stabilize somewhere. With this 15%, we get that opportunity to consume the steel internally, and it makes us more competitive. That's what I can say.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the question to Mr. Dasgupta now. Again, following on from Ekta, and you actually answered this partly in your first reply. The 5% import duty on many products, which was a challenge as far as India is concerned, is being reduced following the Ekta. So what else needs to change to uplift the manufacturing base of India in comparison to other countries or other competitive markets, so that the Indian suppliers can do more business through companies such as the CAS Group Asia?
Again, I think it's a great question. So, as I alluded to it in my previous response, right? Even though we were battling a 5% duty, it was almost like Indian manufacturers were trying to score goals uphill when competing with some of the other manufacturing hubs across the world. So, getting this FTA out, getting this treaty signed is definitely going to level the playing field significantly. Having said that, I think one of the key challenges, at least on the sourcing side and the manufacturing side of things as we see it, is visibility. I think Indian manufacturers are acutely aware of the Northern Hemisphere markets like Europe, North America, especially when it comes to clothing and general merchandise, which are the categories that we play in. Australia, for some reason, has now started to come into focus. So I think, which is where I think a chamber like this is actually worth its weight in gold, because there is a real opportunity to bring the possibilities front and center into the minds of the manufacturers to see how profitable and how mutually beneficial and strategic relationship can be driven between India and Australia, which, if projected in the right way, I think is just a pot of gold to be unearthed. And I'll just give you a simple example, right? Especially when it comes to apparel, which is fashion apparel that is manufactured by Indian factories, large and small. In the fashion world, we operate in seasons: spring, summer, and then fall, winter, right? And India, because it's a cotton-rich country, most of our products are cotton-based. So most of the orders that come into manufacturers are in the spring, summer seasons. Now, traditionally, spring, summer, because of the way that we are in the southern hemisphere, our spring, summer is actually when it is winter, and as compared to the northern hemisphere. So a lot of manufacturers, by getting into Australian markets in the off season when they are having opposite seasons as compared to North America, is an extremely good way for them to balance out the manufacturing cycles, which otherwise in fashion becomes a huge challenge for Indian manufacturers. So there are these real strategic benefits, apart from the relationship, apart from the mutual democracies and the mutual strategic relationship. Even purely from a business perspective, there are these large benefits that if we are able to unlock it, if we can make the Australian market visible and front of center into the minds of manufacturers, for which I think this body can play an enormous part in, I think it's just going to be invaluable as we move forward. So I think it cannot have been more timely for this northern chapter to be set up and we inaugurate it today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I still have a few minutes. So if anybody from the audience wants to ask a question, make a comment, you're most welcome. But please introduce yourself and then you can ask the question or make your comment. Anyone from the audience? Yes, please.
Hi, I am Raman Kalra. I am from Telstra. I have a quick question.
Just take the mic.
Yeah. I have a quick question for you. I also come from sourcing background, right? So that's the reason this question, that's where this question is coming from. So when you say we are exporting whatever X number you quoted in terms of exports to Australia, where do you see and how do you see we competing with China?
It's an extremely good question. The fact is this, right? We cannot pivot in 2 years or 3 years what has taken China 2 or 3 decades to build up, right? I think we all have to be realistic about the size of the challenge. And we have to consider that when you look at the entire supply chain, even though you can take parts of the supply chain and try and create a base out of China, there will still be things that will still come in from China at the very beginning. Having said that, there are certain inherent strengths that, especially in the industry that we operate in, where India has strengths, right? We are one of the largest cotton growing countries in the world. And especially now with what's happened in the Xinjiang region around cotton, it also means that almost 20% of the world's cotton supply has kind of got sucked out of the supply chain, which in fact puts a higher premium on what is available in India from a cotton perspective. So we already have that kind of a natural advantage when it comes to cotton. Even when you look at polyester, even when you look at rayon, which are again 2 very important ingredients as raw materials in the fashion market, the base raw material gets produced in a very large way in India. So we have the base. We also have really large and really competitive garment factories which kind of manufacture, and we have large textile conglomerates which kind of do home textiles end to end. So we do have the base, the base for providing stiff competition is there. I think we just need to align. We just need to sort out some of the things that we face in terms of logistics, in terms of some of the some of the day-to-day operations where China, some of the things get easier to execute. But I think the base is already there. And now that the will is there and people are all pulling in the same direction, I think it's only a matter of time before us providing a really strong alternative to China is not a pipe dream anymore. I think it's a reality.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please. Over there. Yeah.
Hey, this is Bala, CEO of Strat Infinity GCC leader, former chairman of NASCOM South. It's been an interesting panel, and Gavin's point was really mind-boggling in terms of resource and talent pool. So the question is, the Global Capability Center evolution, when you looked at a couple of decades back, it was more on a cost arbitrage, then moved to efficiency, effectiveness. And now we looked at innovation, value creation. Today, especially post-pandemic, right? Today, I just wanted to understand your thoughts whether the global organizations are looking at India still as a cost arbitrage country, or is there the upskilling talent that's growing out of India? Is that the reason why somebody should look at India? What are the 2-3 key reasons why somebody should look at India? Because in my view, cost is no more a major advantage for any global organization for that matter. That's the question.
A good question. So there are a couple of things here. When you really go up the value chain in terms of your tech stack, cost doesn't really play a big role. They're pretty competitive, which means the same resource in Australia was what you would get in India is pretty close. But what I think so is very important is scale, depth, and time to market. That's why I always keep saying, the opportunity of make, buy, and blend is much more prominent in India and gives you that scale. So thanks to all the big 6 or the big 7 that we have in India, including Accenture, they've given you a massive playground. That's one. The other part about it is you also have to make the distinction: are you coming here for skills or coming here for capabilities? And there's a subtle difference between the two. For example, in Telstra, what we've done is we've expanded our GCCs into 3 different cities. We had one in Bangalore, then we expanded in Pune and Hyderabad. And the reason we expanded is because there was talent, like product engineering talent is very prominent in Hyderabad. Software engineering talent, very prominent in Pune. Our networks and engineering laboratory in Bangalore. So you need to take your business where the talent is. Talent is not going to come to your business thanks to COVID. That's really changed the way we play, and the goalposts has really changed. I think that's one reality all our businesses need to make peace with. That's my take.
Thank you. One last question over here. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's very interesting discussion. My question is to Mr. Trivedi. So I am Kapil Dagat from Jindal Steel and Power Limited, New Delhi. Yeah. So my question is on the steel capacities, as we have mentioned, that it will be 3 folds. Currently, it is something around 115 million tons. It will grow to 300 million tons by 2030. This is the target. India is growing at the rate of 8 to 9%. But I don't think the entire steel will be consumed here in India only. It will be exported to other countries, maybe towards Europe and all that. For making this kind of steel, 300 million tons, we require a lot of inputs like the coking coal, the PCI, which we do not have in India. We also need iron ore, which we are rich in. And you must have seen the input prices of all this input material, raw materials, they have increased a lot. So what is the strategy of Tata Blue Scope in this context to meet the demand of the raw material for the Indian steel industries from Australia? So are we thinking to expand the capacities in Australia because India is not having sufficient coking coal? We are having a high ash domestic coking coal, which is not sufficient to meet the demand. So what are the strategies in Australia so that we can explore more, we can increase the production to bring down, because currently the prices are very, very high, $530 to $540 per ton of coal, and the highest price was $670. So under these circumstances, the cost of steel making will be very, very high. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So this is one question which every steel producer in the country would be wondering. But then free trade agreement, if you see, there is a respite on the coal. So that would certainly benefit. That was not me. So that would certainly benefit. But if you ask me personally, so I also keep wondering around. So by the way, Tata BlueScope is not a primary steel producer. Tata BlueScope is a secondary steel producer. So we take steel from Tata Steel, not from BlueScope Steel. We take steel from Tata Steel and color code that steel and make roofing, and building and constructions is our space where we operate. But just to answer that question, having spent 25 years in steel industry, I think where this country would go eventually, this 300 million ton steel will not be consumed within our country. There is an African region which is not tapped properly yet. And people, after a certain stage, even though China production is going down, and Europe, US, and other matured economies have already saturated, the developing economies would move towards African countries. That's my take.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we need to end this very interesting question and answer session. I'd like to thank all three of you for answering, all these questions with your full force of experience behind you. Thank you so much. Big hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, for moderating that, so well, asking them the right questions. And thanks very much from all three of you, Gavin, Anup, and Ridhal, for those brilliant answers, and also for engaging, I think, the audience. I'd now like to request Ms. Sarah Story to come on stage to present the mementos to our moderator and panelists. And if you could just have a picture with you, Sarah, and everyone. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. We'll now have the Raffle Prizes. For the first prize, Gavin, can you stay on? Don't sit. The first prize is an experience voucher, or a dining voucher across ITC hotels in India. And if we can just have the bowl, please.
Someone dropped a blank paper. No, sorry. Ridhal,
so this happens at every event that they think that we fix this. we had the same in Calcutta, the same in Bangalore. We need to remove those cards next time. Yeah, if you can hand that over, please.
Oh, actually, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay, since you're on, we have an experience dining voucher across the Taj hotels in India. And we could have the. Yes. Just don't pick Gavin's.
Don't pick Mr. Trivedi now.
Can you imagine Anup Kumar Trivedi? I wasn't even looking at the ball.
Do we have only 3 cards in the ball?
We'll have to remove I mean, yeah, Gavin's now.
What? Who does this? Oh,
Two. Right, so Anup, if you could come up, please.
Gavin, you can get up now.
Gavin, if you wait, you've got to. Please don't wait. This is a meal for two at Mala Akbari Fine Dining Restaurant.
Final scene.
Yes. This is about roast.
Shows the honesty. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. And could I have Rituraj Sinha, Managing Director SIS, on here for the fourth prize, which is a bottle of Australian wine. And if you could have wine up.
Yeah, this one's good.
this is the real prize.
I have Dr. Badri Narayan Gopalakrishnan
From Niti Aayog. Yeah.
from Niti Aayog. Is here. It's lucky guy.
Who's here? Do you want to? Yeah? Will you again? Okay.
Take another one.
I'll let Badri know. He missed out.
So this is Pushpinder Bhatia. Map my study.
Probably go to the jinx.
Thank God. I'm delighted. Thanks very much, Rituraj. Thanks. And now we'll just have a presentation of mementos to our sponsors. And for that, Deepak, if you could come up to do the honors. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have the first one with Gavin Stanton, executive partner, Ecosystem Telstra. You could have Gavin. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
We'll now have Mrs. Sierra Kulkarni, BD Solutions, Startup News Calls. Thanks, Anup, and thanks, Mr. Mrila Dasgupta from CAS, and thank you to Arjun Puri as well for his support, who isn't here. But, yeah.
Colleague, come.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
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 Rituraj Sinha from SIS Group Enterprises, who is also a lifetime member of the Chamber. Thanks, Rituraj. And we've got three select sponsors, Rahul Gautam from Sheila Group. Shikha Datta, Deputy Manager from JK Cements. And thank you to JK Cements and Madhav, who is in that way. And do we have somebody from Haldiram's? No, I don't think so. Yeah, but that's it. So thanks, feedback. Thanks to Haldiram's, yes, for supporting us, as always. We'll end with a vote of thanks, and for that, can I request the Vice Chair of our Northern India chapter, Rituraj, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Petula. I'm completely mindful of the fact that I'm the man between you and the drinks, so I'll try and make this as quick as possible. Formally, a very good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce, it's my pleasure to thank Honorable Barry O'Farrell, Australian High Commissioner to India, for being the guest of honor today, and for accepting the Chamber's invitation to be the patron. Thank you very much. A big thank you to Ms. Sarah Story, Australian Deputy High Commissioner to India, Counsel Generals Sarah Curlew, Peter Truswell, Rowan Ainsworth, and their teams for their invaluable support to the Chamber. Special thanks again to Hugh Boylan, Economic and Public Affairs Councillor, Alan Poon, and Shreen Strauss from the Australian High Commission, New Delhi, for their assistance in launching this chapter today. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the Chamber's President-elect, Deepak Padaki, Petula Thomas, the CEO, Chapter Chairpersons, Board, Executive Council members, for their visionary leadership and direction. Thank you all of the Northern India Chapter Committee members and special invitees for their teamwork. A special mention for Rahul and Arijit for their time and effort. I would also like to express my thanks to the Secretariat team led by CEO Petula Thomas, who has been instrumental in us expanding the Chamber's presence across all parts of India. Shivindu, who has recently joined the team based out of Mumbai and is present here today. Aditya and Ruben for their untiring efforts. Thank you, Ambassador Wadhwa, our Northern India Chapter Chairperson, for being a fantastic moderator, and the panelists, Mr. Gavin Stanton, Mr. Anup Kumar Trivedi, Mr. Mridul Dasgupta, for your insightful participation. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our sponsors for this evening, Platinum sponsors Telstra, CAS Group Asia, and Tata BlueScope Steel, Gold sponsor SIS, Silver sponsor JK Cement, Haldiram, and Sheila Group. Your support helps the Chamber deliver its strategic initiatives. Thank you very much. Last but not the least, thank you to Taj Palace for their hospitality and the AV team that did not mess up, which is a vision hire.
We're just thanking the the media, can I just say thank you to all of you, the media who are present here today.
My bad. I mean, that's the first rule that completely Barry will endorse. So my apologies, but thank you for being here. And thanks, Petula and the team for organizing a fantastic event. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Ruturaj. Thanks, everyone. Do take this opportunity to meet each other over drinks, and I think we've got some nibbles as well. So thank you very much, and look forward to coming and chatting and meeting everyone and keeping this going. It's great to meet face to face. I think this is something that we all missed, and it's so good. There's nothing like an in-person event. So hopefully less webinars from us as well, and more of this. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.